The Analogue Pocket is almost 2 years old and out of the gate has provided arguably the best way to play your Nintendo Game Boy and Sega Game Gear cartridges. Since release, Analogue promised so much more, and with some firmware updates, the Openfpga features of the Pocket were unlocked, and with its support from the wider FPGA development community. There are now so many arcade, console, handheld and computer cores playable on the Pocket, either handheld or on a big screen with the dock. It now looks like Analogue are also making good on some long-awaited features and releases with some recent announcements. We can expect support for different display modes on the Openfpga cores, and the extra Pocket cartridge adapters for more systems are slated to ship towards the end of 2023, with the long-awaited DAC support being promised for early 2024, so you can finally connect to CRT displays, which would effectively make the Pocket a portable mister. As difficult as it is to lay your hands on one, I was lucky enough to buy a limited edition transparent smoke that was sold out within about a couple of minutes of going on sale, which I'll unbox and set up for the first time in today's video. I'll put timestamps below so you can skip to the setup if you like, and be sure to stick around to the end and how you can get the display modes and other cartridge-only features working for Game Boy and Game Boy Color without using cartridges. With that said, let's get into it. Hi, I'm David Loving and you're watching Loving Tech Life. On this channel, I share my love of tech and gaming with tips, tutorials and reviews based on my experiences. Welcome. Okay, here on the label, you can see I have an Analogue Pocket limited edition transparent smoke. To be honest, I would have ordered a black or white one if they were freely available, but after catching the announcement that they were releasing more of them, and this batch had 6 different transparent options, I decided I'd try my hand at getting one. I set my alarm and made sure I was awake for 1 AM when these were released in my time zone. I loaded the shopping cart in quick order and didn't waste any time adding any accessories just in case I ran out of time. I would have preferred to order a dock and possibly a DAC on the same order, since the shipping from Analogue fees are close to 100 Australian dollars. Already I'm getting some Apple product vibes from the packaging since it's so well put together and has that pressurized feel taking off the lid. So here's my first look at the transparent smoke. I like the subtle shading of this one, and as much as I like some colors in my consoles, I thought the other brighter colors were in danger of looking a little cheap or tacky. This is just transparent enough that you can see inside. Here's the back. It still has the film on there. I'll just peel these off. After hearing some feedback about the black one marking so easily, I think this one will nicely hide any scuffs or marks over time. So obviously, the design takes its cues from the original Game Boy, Game Boy Pocket and Game Boy Color consoles. It's about the same height and width as the original DMG Game Boy, but a lot thinner. I don't have an original DMG on hand, but here is a Game Boy Advance by comparison. Firstly, I was surprised to see how small the GBA D-pad is compared to the Pocket. I like how you can just about see a little Analogue logo on the PCB underneath. Taking a look at the controls, aside from the D-pad, you have 4 face buttons, 2 concave on top and 2 convex below. At the bottom are 3 menu buttons that are mainly used to control settings in the Analogue OS menus in various button combinations, and as your select and start buttons in-game. Around the back you'll find a cartridge slot and the LNR buttons, which are very similar to the Game Boy SP ones. They have a soft, spongy type feel, but have worked fine for me and about as good as you're going to get from a handheld like this. I slowly started getting used to them in the last couple of weeks that I've had my Pocket. On the left side you'll find one of the stereo speakers, volume up and down buttons, as well as the power button, which has a bright green color on all the previous models. The OS also still has a bright green button in the menu, which might be a little confusing for those with the recent transparent limited editions. On the right hand side is the other stereo speaker and a microSD card slot, which you'll use shortly for updating the OS and setting up Openfpga. Lastly, on the bottom you'll find the link cable port, USB-C port, and the 3.5mm headphone jack. Also in the box is a free pack of silica gel, a USB-C to USB-C cable you'll use to charge it, which is a decent length. There is also a little envelope which has some stickers and QR code to a quick start guide and some basic instructions. Overall, I think it's a nicely engineered piece of kit, and I'm really happy with the subtle transparent smoke edition for something a bit different to the standard black and white versions. Some have commented that it might not be transparent enough, and interestingly, if you put a transparent film over it, it fills in the textured finish that gives it the opaque look and makes it much more transparent. I've ordered one of these transparent stickers from Etsy to give it a go and see if I prefer that look. So what do you think of this transparent smoke edition? Let me know in the comments below. Okay, moving on to the setup. Firstly, you'll need a microSD card. I'd recommend at least a 256 gig one, but here I got a good deal on a 512 gig card from Amazon, which is probably an ideal size if you want to future-proof yourself a little bit. Even though this Pocket is brand new, it still had the first release of the firmware from January 2022, so we're going to update that first. Jump onto the Analogue website to download the latest firmware. I'll put a link in the description below. You'll see the latest firmware on the top and just click download and it'll go to your downloads folder. Next, we'll want to prepare the microSD card. Plug the microSD into your PC and make sure it's formatted in either FAT32 or exFAT. Usually a card will come formatted in exFAT out of the box, but if you want to format it yourself, just go to the correct drive letter on your PC. Formatting will delete everything off the drive, so you do not want to format the wrong drive letter here. Right click and select Format and choose exFAT. Here I've also typed in analog for the volume label so it's easy for me to identify later on. Hit start and a warning will pop up and give you one last opportunity to make sure that you are formatting and erasing the data off the correct drive. Hit OK and it'll format the drive and you'll see that the analog label will appear next to the drive letter. Go back to the downloads folder and simply copy the pocket firmware.bin file to the microSD. Eject the card out of your computer, make sure the Pocket is switched off and put the card into the slot on the side. You might need to use your nail to get it in there properly so that it sits flush. Power on the Pocket and it will start updating your firmware. And you'll see the update go slowly to 100%, which takes a few minutes. Once that's done, it'll take you to a tutorial, which you can skip if you wish, then get you to agree to the license agreement and make you set the date and time before letting you into the menu. Now at this point, you can just grab the closest Game Boy cartridge and start playing. This screen is exactly 10 times the resolution of the original Game Boy, so it looks incredible. By holding down the analog button at the bottom and pushing left or right, you can cycle through the display modes for whichever look you prefer. Because it has such a high resolution, it's able to replicate the pixels of the original so perfectly. With carts, you can also take advantage of save states and the super convenient sleep-wake feature just by tapping the power button on the side, allowing you to stop and start a game right where you left off. Next, we're going to get you going with the Openfpga cores so that you can play games directly from the microSD. First, power off the Pocket and take the microSD out and plug it back into your PC. Next, you'll want to get one of the updater scripts available for the Pocket, which will automatically download everything you need to get going with Openfpga. I've heard great things about the Pocket Updater utility from Matt Pinella, so I'm going with this one for the guide. I'll leave a link in the description, but once you open the page, you will want to click on the releases section on the right hand side. Here, you'll find the most recent release at the top of the page. There are releases for Linux, Mac, and Windows, so pick the one that's right for you. I'm picking the Windows zip file. This will download to your downloads folder. Next, you need to unzip this file so that you have the pocketupdater.exe file. You can delete the zip file as that is no longer needed. You will then copy and paste this .exe onto your Analogue Pocket microSD like this. You don't need to put it into any of the folders that were set up as part of the firmware update. Now you'll just double click the .exe on the SD card and the updater utility will run. First, it asks if you would like to install new cores by default, and here I pressed Y for yes. Then it will give you various options, and since this is my first time running it, I'm going to select 0 to update all. This next bit will take some time as it systematically goes through and downloads all the available cores, BIOS files, and anything you need to run all the arcade titles It just won't download any of the console, handheld or computer ROMs or games. So at this point, you can put the card back into the Pocket and be able to play the arcade games straight away. Before we do though, I'll show you some examples of how you can get some of the cores for the various consoles and handhelds going so you can play games. So in this example, I have 3 games from different systems, one Genesis or Mega Drive game, one PC Engine and one for the Sega Master System. It's important to note here that if you have any of the games that are zipped, you will need to unzip them for them to work on the Pocket. All of mine here are unzipped. The first one here is Gunstar Heroes for the Genesis or Mega Drive, so I just need to copy and paste this to the right spot on the microSD. On the microSD, you'll find a folder called Assets. You will see a lot of folders here for all the different console, handheld, arcade and computer cores available, so you'll just need to scroll until you find the Genesis folder, then open the common folder and paste in the file. Again, for the PC Engine, it's the same thing, just copy the file and under Assets, navigate to the PCE folder and open up Common and paste it in. Lastly, I'm going to copy the Sega Master System ROM file and navigate to the SMS folder for Sega Master System and open up the Common folder and paste it in. After popping the microSD back into the Pocket and booting it back up, you can scroll to Open FPGA option and you should find all your cores categorized. If for some reason they are in a long list, just back out and go to Settings, Analog OS, and make sure the Group Open FPGA option is turned on. If I switch it off here and navigate back to Open FPGA, you just have every single core in a big list that is hard to manage. So if I wanted to play the Mega Drive game, I'd go to Open FPGA, then Console, and then navigate down to Genesis. In the US it was called Genesis and Mega Drive for the rest of the world. Here we're going to select the game I copied over to get started. It's the same thing for the Sega Master System, just back out to the list of consoles and select the Master System and choose the game you want to play. While the core is running, you can hit the analog button at the bottom and it will show specific options for the core you're running. Every core has something different here. Lastly, I'll back out and navigate to the PC Engine, also known as TurboGrafx in the US. You will notice that at this stage you cannot change the display modes for any of these cores. However, Analogue have just recently announced this feature is coming in version 2.0 of the firmware towards the end of 2023. You also can't use save states with all of the cores. Only the cartridges and a select few cores actually support save states, so that means only those cores are going to support the sleep awake feature as well. Since the FPGA cores are effectively running a replica or simulation of the hardware, it's very difficult to add save states as a feature for cores, and it takes a very long time for developers of these cores to add support. So please don't hassle them over this. Just to be clear though, you can still use the save game feature for any system or game that allows you to save the game. Save states are just a snapshot that you can take anywhere and then you can rewind back to that if you need it. Okay, so while you can run Game Boy games in Openfpga and the core does support save states, you may also want to use the display modes like a physical cartridge. Well, you're in luck as the Pocket does support this through its GB Studio feature that is designed for Analogue Pocket Homebrew. Firstly, navigate to this Retro Patcher site. I'll leave a link in the description. Here you can patch Game Boy and Game Boy Color ROMs to .pocket files that will work with GB Studio. Just click the button on the page, navigate to your ROM, and on this page it will give you a list of patches available for this game. Some games have other hacks and patches available, but here you can see there's just one option. Click Apply and Save, and it will create a new file with a .pocket extension instead of the GB or GBC file you had originally. Now we just need to copy the .pocket file onto the microSD. You'll find a GB Studio folder, open it up and paste it in. With the microSD in the Pocket, boot it up and navigate to the Tools and open GB Studio and select Play Creations. You should find the .pocket file you copied over. Start this up and it will effectively act like you're playing with the real cartridge. You'll be able to select various display modes, use save states, as well as use the sleep awake feature. If you've followed along, you'll be able to set up and play games with carts Openfpga, and GB Studio. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments below. I read and reply to all of them. Like I mentioned previously, the save state functionality only works for carts and specific cores. If you'd like to learn which cores currently support save states, how to use them on the Pocket, and when not to use them, click or tap the screen here, and I'll see you in the next video.